But don't think that if you go through a difficulty, that there is no hope. There's always hope. The gates of Allah are always open. Sometimes we get difficulties so that Allah pulls us in. You know, sometimes have you noticed, for example, my health begins to become very difficult, my health begins to deteriorate, I start to get sick. At that time, my dua starts to increase. I start to do more dua to Allah. Ya Allah, I'm going through a difficult time, please help me. Or for example, the rizq, the sustenance becomes tight. When it becomes tight, you notice that people get on the musalla more. But sometimes when times get better, my health is better, my wealth income is going good, my bank balance is nice, I sometimes forget Allah. I'm not coming to the masjid, I'm not coming to the mosque, I'm not remembering God Almighty who gave me all these gifts, who gave me all these treasures. And this God, this Allah, who loves you and I so much, that they say that He has one part of His love, and the rest, He has one part He's given to the mother. The rest, 99, He's kept for Himself. Imagine, how much does a mother love their child? Allah is saying, I've given only one part of my love to the mother. No one on this planet can ever compare to the love between a mother and her child. It's not possible. Allah is saying, I love you, that and more. This Allah says, that I've given you wealth, I've given you health, I've given you these blessings. Remember me in prayer. Remember me throughout the day. But sometimes we don't do this. I don't do this. This is where it's very important for us to develop that relationship. Brothers and sisters, in our lives, you need certain anchors. You know when you see big ships, cruise liners, they have something called an anchor. You take this anchor and you drop it over there into the water, and it goes and it sinks. It's very heavy. And it goes to the bottom, and when it goes to the bottom, it goes to the sand, and because it goes into the sand, then that ship can no longer move. It stays docked by the bay. The same way, there are certain anchors that you and I must have as followers of the Ahlul Bayt. That no matter how difficult times get, and no matter how liberal, for example, society may get, I hold on to my anchors. The main anchor in your lives, brothers and sisters, is the love of Ali ibn Abi Talib and his family. Why? What's the dalil? What's the proof? What's the evidence? The evidence is the love of Ali ibn Abi Talib is that spring, it's that fountain that makes you do all the good that you do in your life. That as a follower of the Ahlul Bayt, I must not just be happy with loving the Ahlul Bayt, I must actually follow in their footsteps. This can mean many different things. This can mean, for example, I work towards charity and giving charity to people who don't have something. Shahr Ramadan is the best time for this. Many people don't have anything to eat. We help provide them with things to eat. For example, Allah has blessed me with finances. I have a good home, I have a nice car, alhamdulillah. But there's other people who are just trying to get on their feet. If I help them, that's following in the footsteps of the Ahlul Bayt. Making sure that the needs of other people are provided for. A beautiful saying comes forward with respect to this. That when Allah increases your income, or when God increases your income, don't raise your standard of living, rather raise your standard of giving. There's a difference. That I may decide to get a bigger house and a nicer house, and then none of this is haram. It can only be considered maybe a sin if it goes into israf, that is wastage. But if you're getting it and you've earned it through halal, no problem. You can have a nice house, nice car, no problem. But the question is, am I helping my brothers and sisters living a better life or not? Am I helping them being alleviated of troubles? You know, there's some people, you go to parts of Africa, parts of India, if you donate just $200 or $300, you can save someone's life. People's lives can be saved. Now you think $200, $300, that's not much, but for them that's an immense amount. When we come to discuss Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen in these nights, I want it to be clear that he's not just someone for the Shia. He's not just for Muslims. He is someone who is a universal leader, that is a guide and a beacon of hope for everyone. And I want to start here by saying that some people say today in particular, that Imam Ali is someone who's followed only by the Shias. He's not someone who's the role model for all Muslims, or he's not even a role model for all of the world. He's just confined to the Shias. I want to make it clear tonight that this was not the case in the past. Roughly, if you go back 100 years, 200 years, even 50 years ago, the status of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen amongst the brothers of Ahl Sunnah, Sunni brothers of ours, was so high that they would say you could not compare any companion to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. What was the proof of this? The proof of this was the following, brothers and sisters. Whenever you hear one of our Ahl Sunnah brothers, they say, for example, a name of one of the Sahaba. They'll say Salman or Abu Dhar. They'll say Radiyallahu ta'ala, for example. May Allah be pleased with them. But if you went in the past, they would not say Ali radiyallahu ta'ala. They would say something else. They would say Ali karamallahu wajhah. That may Allah illuminate his face. And you ask the scholars of the past of Ahl Sunnah, why don't you say Ali radiyallahu? You say Ali karamallahu wajhah. That may Allah illuminate his face. And the answer that they would give is very interesting. They would say that Ali, we distinguish and we honor Ali more than the other companions because he is that individual who never in his life bowed down to any idol, ever. He never prostrated before any idol. You know, during the time before Islam, in Ayyam al-Jahiliyyah, at that point they used to have different types of idols. Manat, Lat, Uzza, these were all idols that they had at that time. But Amir and many of the companions who converted, they bowed down and prostrated during their life. They say Ali is the one who never in his life ever prostrated. This is a very important point that needs to be noted. That when we think, sometimes people say, oh, the Shia, they raise the value of Ali too much. Do we really? I want to prove tonight and make that very clear, that whether you're Shia or Sunni, no matter what, every Muslim understands that the position of Ali ibn Abi Talib is separate from every companion. And I will be using, for example, the source of Ahl Sunnah to make this clear. And I'll discuss the bravery of Ali ibn Abi Talib, for example. The honor of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This individual has so many different dimensions that you cannot begin to enumerate. Does it make sense, for example, that today, if I had the greatest scientist of the world, this greatest scientist comes forward, and someone comes forward and says, do you also know who's the greatest warrior of this era, the greatest warrior of this time? I said, no. They said it's the same scientist. So for example, if we had Einstein, who lived in the past 50, 100 years ago, Einstein comes forward, I said Einstein's the greatest physicist who's lived. I remember NPR had a report on this, and they said which individual will be most likely to be remembered 1,000 years from now. 1,000 years from now, which individual will be most likely to remember? They said because of his contributions to the world, they said Einstein was number one in terms of vote getters. Now if this Einstein were here, and I say that this Einstein, number one physicist, very intelligent person, biggest scientist. But now I want to know who is the greatest warrior of the time, who's the most brave. They said it's also the scientist. I said, no, that doesn't make sense to me. That's very strange. That for example in high school and college, you see someone who people call the nerd, right? They have the glasses and they're very intelligent, very smart, very good at the mathematics. You know, they say, there's a joke, Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali.
They say, they say be nice to nerds, because you may work for one day. So at that point in time, we have people who are geniuses, who are working with numbers, mathematics for example. This person is that person. But typically people don't say that nerds are the most brave person, the most courageous person, or vice versa. Sometimes you see someone who's the star athlete in football and basketball, big guy, a jock, but you don't expect that person to be the most intelligent scholar, winning the spelling bee, winning mathematics, winning all these prizes. But Ajib, this personality of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen is such that they call him Mazharul Ajaib, the one who has these distinguishing characteristics, and all of them are present in this individual. That a French historian wrote, not a Muslim. He's saying that this person, Ali, baffles me, I don't understand. That he was also the most brave warrior of his time, but he was also the greatest scholar of his time. You don't find people like this. How do you find someone like this? The level and the merits of Ali ibn Abi Talib can never be enumerated. We can spend our whole lives and still not understand. Because it's very clear from the perspective of Islam, the perspective of the Ahlul Bayt, that Rasulullah has made it very clear that Ali, no one can understand you. That Rasulullah is saying, Ya Ali, no one has understood Allah except you and I. Except you and I, no one can ever understand Allah. No one's understood. And he says, Rasulullah says to him, no one has understood me except you and Allah. And he says, Ya Ali, no one has understood you except Allah and me. This is the level of Ali ibn Abi Talib, brothers and sisters. Reinvigorate and refresh your hearts with the love of Ali ibn Abi Talib in these nights. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Whatever angle, whatever dimension of your life, you can get guidance from this individual and his teacher. His teacher who? Amir al-Mu'mineen himself says, I did not learn a single word except that it was taught to me by Rasulullah. That I may say, for example, that the greatest alim of the world is Ali ibn Abi Talib. The greatest scholar of the world is Ali ibn Abi Talib. But you said, did I do injustice to Rasulullah? No. Because the greatest muallim is Rasulullah. The greatest teacher is Rasulullah. Brothers and sisters, you may say this is Shia perspective, this is all that, this seems biased. I want to give evidence and proof of this tonight to make it clear for us. That we can go to our universities, our works, we can talk to our Ahlul Sunnah brothers and say, look and read some of the literature that your scholars have written years ago and have said how high the level of Ali ibn Abi Talib is. This is not something to be taken lightly. Tafsir al-Kabir, Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi, not a Shia scholar, Ahlul Sunnah scholar. Tafsir al-Kabir. In it, he cites a very interesting incident in his tafsir. They say that Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi, of the late Persian scholars, particularly those of Ahlul Sunnah, as you know, before the Shia revolution and the Safavid empire, most of those people in Iran were Ahlul Sunnah, there was a Sunni majority. But still their scholars were sharp. Fakhruddin al-Razi is considered one of the most intelligent of the later scholars. He wrote Tafsir al-Kabir. In Tafsir al-Kabir he says, and he cites an interesting incident. The Rasulullah had a companion who was a lady. This lady was someone who would used to help out in the battles. When they would go for Badr, Uhud, Khandaq, Khaybar and the likes. She would help people, for example, if they got wounded, the ashab, the people who were the followers of Islam, if they became wounded or cut, she would help put bandages on them, for example, or help clean the blood away. She's saying this. She says that we were in the masjid of Rasul at one time, and I noticed that Ali ibn Abi Talib was by the door. And in the courtyard was Aisha and Rasulullah. This is Sunni reference. In the courtyard was Aisha, Rasulullah, and by the door was Amir al-Mu'mineen. As you know, Rasulullah's door would open into the masjid. It was attached directly to the masjid. At that moment in time, Rasulullah looks towards Aisha, in this reference, looks towards Aisha and says, do you see that one standing by the door? And Ali was standing by the door. He says that love for him is iman. And hatred for him is kufr wa nifaq. حُبُّكَ الْإِيمَانِ وَبُغْضُكَ كُفْرًا وَنِفَاقًا. And that reference looks and says that this Ali is the standard of iman. You want to know if you have iman in your heart, you have faith in your heart, you have love of Allah in your heart, look towards Ali ibn Abi Talib. This narration doesn't stop. It says that after the battle of Jamal, as you know, the battle of Jamal, on one side was Amir al-Mu'mineen, on the other side was Talha, Zubair and Aisha. They were fighting against each other. At this point in time, after the battle was ended, and you know Amir al-Mu'mineen won, and he took back Aisha with respect, and all this happened, this same lady companion of Rasulullah, in Tafsir al-Kabir it's written, she went forward and she began to discuss with Aisha. You had this huge war, which the Muslims say is a civil war, and all these Muslims died. How do you feel about Ali ibn Abi Talib after this? In Tafsir al-Kabir, Imam al-Razi says that Aisha responded. She says that I still find Ali the way that my father would find him and Rasul found him. So what do you mean the way your father found him? She says, it happened that my father was sitting one day and I was sitting with him. It happened that Rasulullah came in. Rasulullah came and sat down in the house, and after some time, Ali ibn Abi Talib came and sat down. I'm sitting and I'm watching this. She says at that moment, I looked towards my father and I noticed my father, Abu Bakr, as you know, is looking towards the face of Ali.